Hi folks, how you doing? In the ninth round of the chess Olympiad in Norway, the Norway #1 player and world champion Magnus Carlsen was white against Dragan Solak from Turkey, and he had another roller coaster game with lots of emotions and sharp positions. Now his opponent Dragan Solak is not a newcomer to chess. He's rated 2632 and a really very strong, solid player. I remember his really great performance at the recent European Individual Championship in Armenia this year. So this was an interesting matchup. Carlsen played 1c4. I think he hadn't played this move, the English opening, so far in this Olympiad. c6, knight f3, d5. I guess Carlsen is trying to avoid black's black's opening preparation, as I guess Solak is a good expert on the Slav. And e3, an interesting move order for white. Knight f6, knight to c3. This move order, by the way, I think was the favorite specialty of Lisitsyn in the 30s, almost a century ago. An opening he used to beat people like Botvinnik and Capablanca, among others. And Solak plays a6 here. h3. This is almost an anti-theoretical position, really similar to a Can Sicilian now that I look at it with reversed colors, something similar I think. e6, very solid. b3, bishop to d6, and now after d4 we reach a semi-Slav structure, more or less normal I guess, where white plays b3, bishop b2, knight bd7. Now easy moves, developing pieces, black castles, bishop to e2, queen to e7, supporting this e5 typical break, which I think is a very liberating move for black in the semi-Slav structures. And here, not very normal, not very usual in Magnus, but he goes aggressive right out from the opening. He had moves here, he could castle, he could play queen somewhere, but I guess after e5 black was getting very comfortable in position, so he tried to mud the waters, try to complicate matters, and plays g4 here, trying an early kingside expansion. It is almost clear he's not going to castle, at least short. Black tries another move here, b5, counter-attacking here. g5, knight to e4. After these exchanges, Carlsen retreats his knight on d2, and now is attacking e4, but is leaving unpre the g5 pawn. So already quite an complex position, unbalanced one, not that easy to assess and calculate lines. Here the engine is suggesting for black taking on g5, and after knight takes, of course, attacking the queen. Maybe Solak wasn't happy with the move that after bishop before check, white has this possibility of rook f1, and apart from the immediate attack with the knight, white has the extra possibility of putting the rook on g1, having something going on the open file, and who knows, d5 could happen, the bishop joins the party, so this could be dangerous, even though black the engine thinks this is the best for black. But after knight d2 he plays f5, which is quite solid as well, reinforcing his central pawn. His pawn on e4 really keeps attacking g5, so not a bad move at all, of course. h4, protecting that pawn, and now he strikes counterblasts in the center with e5. Carlsen plays c5, I guess physically not allowing black to play c5 himself, but that could be really a disaster for white's position. Bishop to c7. Now Carlsen goes a4. Really a weird game with almost all pawns moving forward. This is like kind of a pawn game, pawn battle here. And Solak keeps pushing pawns as well. He plays f4, following kind of a classical rule. If you got a pawn chain like this, try to attack its basement. Now that's why f4 is played. After queen to c2, f takes. Now this e3 pawn is a theoretical weakness. E takes, opening the position a little. Carlsen takes with the bishop back, cementing a little bit his pawns on dark squares on c5 and d3. And knight e5. Really playing with fire here, Magnus Carlsen, because his position is really shaky. His king in the center. Apparently lots of weaknesses. Not clear that he has really an attack going on. And his opponent is not a beginner at all. So, like I said, this is a risky strategy to play like this with white, but maybe you have to risk in this team competition sometimes if you want to give your team some points. A takes, and now knight d3 intermediate check. Even though black is giving up a pawn here on d3, he is developing pieces with tempo. Bishop f5, queen e2, he takes b5 check. Sorry, he takes b5 back, that's what I meant. And now Magnus castles, but really not sure if his king is safe here. I mean, not sure where it was less safe, in the center only one, or here on c1, because black has the bishop pair, the queen, both rooks ready to attack. This bishop on f5, already a very important diagonal, is covered by this bishop, so a shaky position as it could be. Not a lost one, still playable, but dangerous for white, I think. Not really comfortable to play. Queen to e6, queen g2. Magnus tries to get something going himself on the king side. Rook a d8, rook to f1, and bishop e5. This bishop on d4 is a really strong defender of white king's position, so makes sense to try to eliminate it. Rook d e1, at least putting a rook in the same file as the black queen is. Bishop d3, here a couple of rooks are exchanged here, and this rook is back to d1. And now Solak keeps moving, starts to move his queenside pawns, as he has a majority here, which are going to be very important to put pressure on this white king. h5, a4, and king b2. Really a difficult position for white king. He's trying to neutralize possibility of these pawns being very dangerous. This bishop doing a great job. Possibility of this bishop being really important as well. The queen is also focusing here. Not easy to play for white here at all. I mean, if it wasn't for the world champion playing this, lots of GMs would have already been crushed in this position, I guess. Rook to d8. And after h6, 32 moves, we reach a crucial point of the game. Here, Solak had a very interesting exchange sacrifice, which he probably should have gone for, but he was in a really time pressure. Lots of time trouble there for the Turkish GM, so he didn't go for the rook takes, e takes, and bishop takes continuation, which is really giving blacks optically really great perspective. These bishop pairs are cruising here. The pawn and the queen are also very important here, and certainly white must be very, very careful here. His only move is to play king a3, as if he goes king a2, this is over. After check, knight takes b3. This is a forced checkmate after queen a6 check. Knight to a5, queen takes, and king b3, queen a4, checkmate. Black gets what he was deserving here. Checkmate, beautiful victory against white king here. But of course, after king a3, this is what white would have to play if this move would have played. Bishop takes c5 is suggested here. b4, this kind of strange things white has to do to avoid being checkmated, but this is opening this diagonal for the queen. Although there is no immediate threat, really looking shaky position for white king, as shaky as it can get, and really very, very dangerous and difficult. I think not very pleasant to be white here. But okay, after h6, as I said, in terrible time pressure, Solak played a3 check, which in fact is a mistake, serious mistake, stopping his own attack. Of course, white is not opening more lines for black pieces to attack his king, but Carlsen goes king a2, and all of a sudden, having survived a tough position, he's objectively speaking winning, because his king is finding cover and shield here after down this pawn, enemy pawn, and now after bishop takes, e takes, queen e3 is what black played, but really white has lots of arguments here to be really happy. Of course, his king is much safer, feeling much safer, but he has a couple of passed pawn, never forget it. And he has maybe something going on here on his own, on his king side attack. And really a shame, because time travel, Dragon Solak, he couldn't find a way to continue his attack, and now find himself in a lost position. Queen g1, Carlsen tries to exchange queens here, but after queen e2, of course there is a pin, there's an attack, something, but simply queen e1 forcing the queen exchange is giving white a very considerable edge here. Rook takes d4 is what black played, and now c6. Another interesting point of the game, maybe the last practical choice for black, was to try this beautiful bishop b1 check. The knight cannot take, there is a pin, so the best move for black was to take on a3. Otherwise, the trick was that if white takes on b1, there is a long sequence ending in checkmate in black's favor. King to a2, c2 check, king takes a3, now b4 sacrificing, not sacrificing yet, but after king a4, queen c6 check, king a5, now sacrificing the pawn with rook d5 check, and after king takes b4, the king here in the middle under heavy fire is not surviving much more. After this we have queen a5 checkmate. So this was another practical possibility for black to try to trick white and get this checkmate going on. I don't think Carlsen would have fallen for this, but it was a possibility. Instead, Dragan plays logical moves like rook d6, trying to keep the position solid, attacking this pawn on c6, and after c7 going to c6, trying to stop this pawn from promoting, of course. Now Carlsen exchanges queens and goes rook e1, bishop to g4. Both pieces, of course, are protecting c8 square. Now rook e7, good rook on the 7th. After g takes, this king is not very well placed, but maybe not in big danger as there are not much pieces left, but certainly is some factor here. Rook takes h6, now rook e4. This is the kind of a position which Carlsen doesn't let go with initiative. These endgames are a specialty of him. Bishop f5, and now, well, this move isn't a great one, I guess, because you cannot take the rook, never. Carlsen takes this tempo to improve his knight. Bishop take is not possible because he is getting a queen on c8. So after knight f3, bishop to h3, knight g5 with an interesting idea of putting the knight on e6 and stop this, physically stopping this bishop from protecting this c8 square. Bishop f5, rook e5, and after bishop g4 he goes knight e6, and neither piece of black can take the knight, because if rook takes, just a queen, and if bishop takes, white first takes on e6, and if rook takes, once again a queen, attacking both pieces here. Okay, so right after knight e6, Solak kept trying rook h2 check, but king takes here, and now he defends c8 by going to c2. Now rook g2 check, king f7. Carlsen prefers to keep these light pieces here because the rook endgame may be more drawish without the pieces. So knight d4, and he has two pieces under attack here. He is winning material with rook takes c7, rook takes g4. Black keeps fighting, but this is over. King b4, and this is really a matter of some technique, which of course the world champion isn't lacking. h5, rook f4 check, king g6, king to c5, b4, rook takes, rooks are exchanged, but this is over. This knight is going to take care of the black pawn, and this pawn is going to decide the game. King f4, knight h4, after king g4, b4, and black resigned because this is theoretically one endgame. White gets there first and controls this h pawn, getting it done and winning the game for Magnus Carlsen in a really roller coaster, shaky and somehow crazy game in which the world champion was in huge danger of losing at some points. Was really outplayed early in the, more or less in the opening and in the middle game. But under heavy time trouble, his opponent, Dragan Solak from Turkey, didn't find the appropriate attacking moves and found himself in a losing position. Thanks